Okay, I had a little bit of a problem there. I'm not sure exactly what was going on, but for some reason it would not maintain 0. The lines kept appearing well off of the part. I think it was just I had messed with too much stuff in the program and I just had to get a fresh restart. Okay, so what I have done is I have nested using parts. Now, if we've run this enough, we know that we're limited to 999 of the same part. But if you want to go above 999 of the same part, you can just import it again and set it up the same way. You can even, I believe, copy and paste into the other one so that it'll represent multiples of the same identical part, and you can nest them. Now, as I previously mentioned, this is a part made out of 26 gauge. I'm sorry if I'm making it ill here. I'll try to clip that out. Okay, so this is a 26 gauge part. Well, the problem with 26 gauge parts is that basically they're like foil. They're really hard to work with because once you've cut so much of the material out, they become very, very loose. It's very difficult to work with them. So what I've done now is I've drawn a line used in the draw menu, and I've drawn a line at halfway through the sheet in both directions. So I've made basically a cross right through the sheet. And I've moved them around before. If it's a little bit off to one side or the other, depending on part size, I'll do that. And now what I'm doing is I'm going to delete the extra ones that I don't want. And we can actually see the number going up. So basically, all you have to do when you're doing these selects is you have to not select fully anything you don't want to delete. So if you're going from left to right. Okay. And then we're going to go from top to bottom here. Again, trying to go slow so I don't make anyone sick. So again, as long as we don't have anything else fully within the frame, it will just delete that line. Okay, now we're down to the last thing. So we have this line here. This line is on the same layer as my parts. Well, that's a problem because it's going to cut them. It might cut them first. It might cut them last. We just don't know. So how can we do this? How can we have these lines cut when we want them? Well, we're going to select both of them. And then we are going to go ahead and click this button down here. It says last layer. We select that. And now we can go into our layer menu. And we can see that we have layer 1, which is what we're cutting on, and last layer. Now you'll notice that they're the same. That's because we loaded in on last layer, we loaded our parameters. So what you would do is just load them like you would normally. You would save this parameter, and you would have whatever this is, like, you know, this is 22 gauge to 81008. And then you would go to your last layer, and you would make some modifications to it. Now, one thing that you probably noticed, this is the only difference on layer 1 to last layer, is right here with lift height. Layer 1, it's 20 millimeters. Last layer, it's 40 millimeters, and I might actually suggest to do 60 millimeters. And the reason for that is that the last layer is basically, it's going over all the stuff that's been cut. So if it's going to snag something, it's going to snag it right here and now. Okay, so now that that's done, we can go ahead and simulate this. Let me see if I can demonstrate this a little differently, because I don't want to sit here for an hour either. Yeah, okay, so it's cut times an hour 40, which that's probably right, because this is a lot of parts. We'll go into CNC, or rather view, and we can see sort mode, and we're going to see where, so the 1849th piece is right here, cutting down, and then 1850 is here. So that seems about right. Let's see how many parts are actually on here. 1848, so yeah, that's the last cut. So what it's going to do is it's going to cut that part last, it's going to cut that X, and it's going to turn this piece into a 4 separate pieces. The next important thing with it is that when we locate this, if you want it to cut where the back corner, specifically this corner here, this area right here, and the one way inside the machine are severed, what you do is you go into your edge seek menus, and I think it's Yeah, okay. And you set your correction values on X and Y to 0, which means it will cut right up to the edge. And as long as you have that done, it'll basically cut it right up at the edge on the two corners that it edge seeks. So if you have an edge seeking the back corner and you have an edge seeking the left-hand side, then it will cut through pretty much every time on the back and on the left-hand side. So you might need to cut, depending on your sheet's slop or allowance, you might need to cut through the front corner and the one on the right-hand side. I just sold something on eBay, by the way, if you didn't hear that. So anyway, that's that. And not a whole lot to it. What this allows you to do, though, is one person can easily grab onto these otherwise limp noodle parts. I've had it where parts were so... they had the consistency of wet cardboard that had been soaking overnight. If you picked them up, they would just fall apart because they're so riddled with holes. Quartering them lets you get two hands real close on the part. You can pick it up and move it out, which speeds you up overall. You can get them out, get the next sheet cutting, because when you're working on a 2-hour-long cutting session in a laser, the sooner you can get that 2 hours started, the sooner you get to go home. So again, just a good plan. 2 little laser cuts across a 4-foot sheet. It's like 20 seconds or maybe 30 seconds of cut time. Totally worth it. Probably takes 4 or 5 minutes off of the unload time. You don't get cut. Your parts don't get bent and messed up. It's just a better experience overall just to cut the sheet up on the machine and grab it and haul it off. And then what you'll want to do is, after you've done this work, because it does take time, you want to save this as you click Save as LXD, and it will save your parameters just like this. The whole parameter sheet, everything is saved, and you can recycle this over and over again, at least I think, assuming you don't change the layers. So be aware, keep your layers all clean and set up, and then you can reuse your sheets and save a lot of time. Time is a big thing with laser cutting. I would say that on average, setting up a sheet of parts almost takes longer than cutting the sheet of parts because of how troublesome it is. So if you can reuse data, definitely do that. Thanks for watching.